Singapore's longest-running film festival is returning in full force for a 33rd edition. From the 24th of November till December the 4th, film buffs can look forward to 101 films representing works from more than 50 countries at the Singapore International Film Festival.
And for more on it, we are joined by Program Director Thong Kay Wee. Kay Wee, thanks very much for joining us this evening. It's your first full year as Program Director of SGIFF. Give us a sense of your vision for this year's festival, especially because it's returning, post-pandemic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it might sound like a noble analogy, but I would really like to idealize the festival. It's an annual 10-day film pilgrimage. So we, as the festival team, really serves as the custodians of people's cinematic experience, guiding them through immersing everyone in this vast terrain of quality film offerings that we've curated, so people can traverse across new places and discover new vistas for themselves. So yeah, thinking along the lines of mapping out the terrain of experiences, we have already introduced program sections inspired by a spectrum of geographic positions last year. So for this year, we've added 2 new sections titled Altitude and Horizon. And this really completes my vision of the film pilgrimage, where we help direct people to find a path in this process, what films may suit their palette, and essentially to encourage everyone to deeply consider every encounter they have with a film and the different positionalities they can assume when they go through this journey with us.
Kay Wee, there's a lot of competition out there as far as quality films are concerned and film festivals. How is SGIFF carving its own specific niche to really stand out against other international film festivals like the ones in Venice, in Cannes, Busan, even in South Korea?
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question, and it's very important that we need to understand our place in the world. Singapore being positioned strategically as an important access point for others in our region, and SGIFF's history as the longest-running film festival in Southeast Asia. So it's almost comparable to, say, Channel News Asia, for instance, where your network differentiates from many established global networks by specializing in reports on global developments with Asian perspectives. So similarly, our assets are quite similar in our long-standing focus on local and regional talents, our access to knowledge, infrastructure, resources coming out from Singapore, a prosperous first world city-state. And it's important that we think of ourselves as a counterpart and even counterweight to the influence of these bigger film festivals they've mentioned, as these festivals will always place more emphasis and exposure on familiar domestic content. And we need to stand by our regional focus, especially Southeast Asia, with our developing film and media industries to make sure we represent them well with the right optics. Yeah.
So let's zoom in onto the Singapore content for a minute here. I think over a quarter of this year's lineup is made up of Singapore content. How has our cinema scene evolved over the years?
Well, I think over the years, especially the past 2 decades, I would say there have been more access to film education, to more resources like grants from IMDA, and again, more technology that advances, that makes filmmaking a more accessible process for many people. So I think this is where creativity has been flourishing over the last few years. And we have also been encouraging more international co-productions. So you find local projects with an international outlook that has been the ongoing trend, I would say, for the last decade or so. So I would expect more Singapore projects to come out from the independent film scene, as well as a more independent and international flavor to our projects coming out from Singapore.
Kay Wee, with 101 films on offer, being the first film to open the festival, it's quite an honor. The one that's been chosen is Assault. This is the first Central Asian opening, it's a Central Asian film, and it's going to open the whole festival. How do you actually choose? What process do you go through to make that decision? This is the one, this is the one that's going to kickstart the festival for us.
I think firstly, the opportunity to present the first ever Central Asian opening film in SGIFF, it's something that we really relish. And it also speaks of the developments of Kazakh cinema and Central Asian cinema in general, that we want to represent them as we speak about Asian cinema as a whole. So I think Assault as a film is directed by Kazakh director Adurkan Yazanov, and he's one of the most prolific director in Kazakhstan. And he actually first gained prominence with his breakout feature, The Owners, and this was the film that was actually competing at SJFF back in 2014. So we also have a relationship with this director, and we've always been supportive of him since 2014 by also screening other films of his across the years. So it's together with this opportunity of the milestone, as well as supporting a director that we've always supported, that makes this an exciting opportunity for us. And we really wanted to show Singapore audience what Kazakh cinema is about in this current day and age.
All right, Kay Wee, we've spoken a lot about the big picture, but I'm going to put you on the spot here, and as a sort of a personal reflection, do you have a particular favorite that you think festival goers should be gunning for at this festival?
Well, I think, there's like 101 titles available, but I think there were only about maybe 2 titles, the 2 films that really made me tear, and which means it really hits me hard emotionally. So one of my recommendations would be the film How to Save a Dead Friend by Marisha Serokolskaya. So this is a Russian filmmaker, and she made a documentary about herself and her ex-partner since they were 16 years old and up to for more than a decade. So this is really about youths in what we would call living in a depression federation in Russia, and how they really went through the whole era with the Moscow music subcultures and battling a depressive environment, and how they survive out of this. So I think it's pretty topical and relevant as we speak about this film when we look at current affairs today. And I would recommend everyone to watch this film, to find out more about what's happening inside the Russian society. Yep.
So audiences bring their enthusiasm, but maybe also some tissues along to the screenings and the festival. Kay Wee, thank you very much for joining us and sharing that with us. That was Thong Kay Wee there, Program Director of the Singapore International Film Festival.